In today's show, it's a mailbag episode answering listener-submitted questions about early impressions of Tiago Splitter's coaching, whether Sidy Cissoko can get an NBA contract, and Hansen's path to playing. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter Mike Richmond. You're listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen. Coming at you each and every weekday, Monday through Friday. So make it a part of your daily routine. Make it first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's program, it is a mailbag episode. We're going to answer listener-submitted questions all episode long. We're going to talk Tiago Splitter and early impressions of what he's been like as a coach in his first 25 games at the helm. We'll talk Sidy Cissoko, who's been a bright spot for the Blazers and maybe on a path to earning an NBA contract. Plus, Hansen's path to playing time. Have played a morning game in the G League. Is there a way that he can earn enough reps to be useful for the Blazers in the near future? That's what we'll do. If you want to be involved in a future mailbag episode, email me lockedonblazerspod@gmail.com. Although got a lot of emails, so the queue is full. Let's get into the Tiago Splitter stuff. That's where we're going to start here. The thing about getting a lot of emails is that I got questions about Tiago Splitter from listener Alex, listener Riley, listener Jeff, listener Blake, all kind of asking various versions of the same thing, kind of like what to make of Splitter, whether he's the long-term solution, et cetera, et cetera. I can't really speak to, let's just like sort of start here and work backwards. I can't really speak to what Tom Dundon's going to do. I think the safe bet with this stuff is that a new owner in sports typically changes coaches and GMs. That's typical. Whether that's immediate or after a season or whatever. But like typically, like I get like that. This isn't based on reporting. This is just like my understanding of North American professional sports. Typically, when a new owner comes in, there are changes at the top because they want to put their folks in, right? Their folks in charge, who are, handpicked and see the things the way they want to see it. That doesn't mean that Splitter won't get the job. It just means if I had to guess, I guess everybody's getting fired. I think that's that seems to be what would happen. But I can't. That's total speculation. I have no idea. What I do know is like what I've seen Splitter. I've watched every minute of sort of the Tiago Splitter experience. I've watched the Blazers play these games. Here's the thing, and this is a somewhat unsatisfying answer, and I totally understand that. Through 25 games, it's really hard to say whether Splitter is a good coach or a bad coach. I think there's a little bit of stuff on both sides. I mentioned before that I like that he has a pretty firm philosophy. Talking on offense, he says like the speed will get us open shots, and while he wants to play with pace, not only pushing it in transition, and they were really, and their big win over the Warriors the other night, they killed the Warriors in transition. That was actually the secret of their sauce, is that they played fast a bunch. Those 2 threes early in the fourth quarter that Jeremy Grant hit was because they pushed in transition to get those shots, right? That was where they were really good. The half court wasn't as good, but they play that, and he wants to play with pace in the half court, and that has been successful to varying degrees. And I think some of it's just like not enough dudes who can dribble, hard to play with pace when you just like don't have guys who can keep the pace going with confidence and ball handling, et cetera, et cetera. I like that he has a strong philosophy. I appreciate that. I think he's drawn up some nice late game X and O's plays. The lob play he drew up in Orlando immediately comes to mind, where it's like, they need a bucket, and he draws up a nice misdirection lob, trusts his guys to execute it. They do. What a play! Like keeps them in the game. Again, they ultimately lost. That was kind of bonkers, but players play. He did his part there. I think that like the philosophy stuff, some of just the sort of straight X's and O's stuff. I think Splitter is clearly a very smart basketball mind, right? Right before the Warriors game, in pregame, I asked him like if when his team is struggling, they had lost 6 of 7 and 3 in a row heading in that Warriors game, is he a believer of like making major tweaks, like, hey, we got to change something because this isn't working, or like getting back to sort of your core principles? And he says like, I'm more of a back to basics type of person. Like maybe you focus specifically in on an opponent, and particularly because of their schedule and they had some time off, like dialing in like specific matchup specific stuff. But he's like a back to basics guy. Believe in your principles. principles, stick to your principles, do what you think works, but like hammer it home, right? Get the details down. I think that speaks to trusting your philosophy, and I appreciate the trust your philosophy. At some point, it can get a little stagnant, and you do need to change. But I think like at this stage, like I kind of agree with it, that sort of approach. The sort of big picture stuff I like as Splitter as a coach. But there's some small things that I don't love. Like I think I'd be remiss to not just like point out that they're 22nd on defense this year. They've missed a bunch of dudes. They're missing a bunch of players. But the fact that they're bottom third in the league in defense, that strikes me as a pretty big step back from where I thought they would be. Last year, they were pretty bad on defense to begin the year, and then they found it. And they've largely had that group minus Anthony Simons, add in a little bit of Drew Holiday and a little bit of Sidy Cissoko in those Ant Simons starting lineup minutes. Like for them to not be sort of like, if they were like 16, I'd be like, yeah, okay, that makes sense, right? But to take a step back as far as they have on defense, that's 22nd in points allowed per 100 possessions, according to NBA.com. That strikes me as a little bit dicey. 18th on offense. I thought they were going to be worse on offense. So like I thought they would probably be somewhere in the, like I thought 18th might have been roughly like their ceiling-ish, 16 or 18, or like their absolute ceiling this year. So perhaps like Splitter, who was hired to be the offensive guy, is just a better offensive coach than he is a defensive coach, and they're kind of getting there. Perhaps the style of play, pushing it so much on offense and asking so much of Denny Avdia due to kind of the health and situation with the roster has just like kind of dialed back some of one of your better defenders' ability to contribute on that end. I think Splitter I've asked him in the past, and he's talked about like, some of it you like had to dial back on pressing and like lean into this zone a little bit and play different than they wanted to play at the beginning of the season, because you can't ask, if you're going to play Toumani Camara 37 minutes, you can't ask him to do what he did, what the style that they wanted him to play. If when they were aiming to play him 32-ish minutes, right? It's just like that 5 minutes might not seem like a lot, but it's a ton over the course of a week, right? It's 20 extra minutes in 4 games in a week. It's just like that's another half of a basketball game. It's a lot. It adds up. And then like I don't love Splitter's game management stuff. For instance, like some just like lineup things. And I know like picking on like why did the coach put these dudes out there is kind of like low hanging fruit, but I do believe like my biggest belief is that once a regular season game starts, the main thing a coach does is decide who plays and when. Like, there's some preparation stuff you do beforehand and all those things, and you can make little tweaks in game. But like, for the most part, because in like the non-NBA Cups run of the season, like you play games every other day, and you just don't have time to like really dial in on opponents in the way you would because travel and all that stuff. It's like, you run your stuff, and the biggest thing a coach does once the game starts in a regular season game is decide who plays and when. Like, that's the biggest thing they do. So, like, for instance, at the end of that Warriors first quarter game against the Warriors on Sunday evening, it was Jeremy Grant and the bench. And it's just like, if I had to pick of the Blazers' best 3 offensive players, of Sharp and Jeremy and Denny, it's like, have it be one of Denny or Shaedon Sharpe, because they're just better shot creators. They're better passers. Like Shaedon Sharpe sometimes gets a little tunnel vision, but Jeremy Grant, born with tunnel vision, still got it and doesn't make some of the higher level reads that Shaedon Sharpe occasionally taps into. So it's like, and both of those guys, Denny and Sharpe, are just like better individual shot creators, although Jeremy Grant's been pretty darn good this year. But like in just some terms of like who would you leave out there on their own with the bench to like be that creator type. Like I didn't love that group, right? And they gave up an 8-0 run, and the Warriors got back in the quarter, or got back in the game at the close of the quarter. But like, whatever. Like that's a minute and 23 seconds of trying something. He did not go back to that in the second half, right? Who plays and when. I mentioned this before, but I think Splitter can get wonky with timeouts in both directions. I think sometimes he calls too many timeouts early to kind of slow things down, or to quell runs, and he will go into the fourth quarter with 3 timeouts, knowing he has to use one at the 7-minute mark. So he's going to have 2 timeouts for the final 7 minutes of game in a close game, and you need those timeouts at the end. So you really can't take another one to like give your guys a break. And it's like, you're just the decisions you made in those second and third quarters are now biting you in the fourth. Like, and I think he can get a little emotional on challenges. Like, he's a competitive dude. He's pretty fiery and competitive on the sidelines. He goes from very stoic to very intense pretty quickly. And he seems like he can get a little emotional with challenges. And I think he's called some challenges when he just has not liked the call, when it's like not a winnable challenge. He's listened to his bench sometimes. The most important thing a coach can do is not listen to their bench. So many NBA coaches do it. In fact, I heard a mic'd up with Laker game, one of the Cup Laker games I was watching with JJ Redick, and they caught him going into the huddle, and he was like, Rui told me to challenge it. It's like, you can't listen to these dudes. They don't, like, Rui Hachimura doesn't know. But so, like, yeah, those are little like nitpicks. Like, I think he's not great with the timeout stuff, not great with the challenge stuff. I think some of the lineup management stuff's not great. But that's, to me, that's just like what a coach that is unfamiliar with the big chair is going to struggle with, right? Like, he's coached 25 games, and to my mind, he's coached basically 0 with a full roster. And I'm not even counting Scoot Henderson, who hasn't played all year. It doesn't matter. He didn't, you knew you weren't going to get him before you even knew Chauncey Billups wasn't going to be the coach, right? And I'm not counting Damian Lillard because the Blazers signed him knowing full well he wasn't going to play this year. So it's like, let's throw those guys out. I'm just talking like dudes who have played this year to be available. Rob Williams didn't play till the 31st, October 31st. He didn't play till Halloween, and Matisse Thybulle got injured on the 29th of October against Utah. So basically, Splitter has never coached his full complement. I don't know how good of a coach he is. I think the stuff I don't like about him as a coach is stuff that you get better at from coaching. Like, coaches improve, and he'll get better at timeout management and game management. He'll get, maybe more dialed in on how we're going to challenge, although some veteran coaches are pretty emotional with their challenges as well. So maybe that'll never change, whatever. But like, just the game management, like making sure you have your timeouts and have your challenges when the game is going to be close and when it matters, getting your rotations so you're not guessing as much. But again, like, the team's been so beat up that like getting a set rotation and not trying to just like throw darts is easier when you got the full group. So I would say, like, I don't think Splitter has jumped off the page to me as this like fantastic coach, but most of the things I am critical of him are just the obvious things that new coaches, like early first year in the big chair and in this league, coaches struggle with. So there's a chance that he cleans those up and he feels like a really good coach. And also, like, maybe he'll get to coach the full roster for a 10-game stretch, and then we'll kind of really know what the deal is, because he just hasn't had to do that yet. Let's talk Sidy Cissoko in the second segment. Join me there, won't ya? First, though, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast, and with FanDuel, so can you. One big play, suddenly everything feels different if you're watching those NFL games. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time with FanDuel. You can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is the best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment, so you can bet live spreads and money lines that are adjusting instantly, player props that are updated as the action unfolds. You can bet next touchdown score, drive results, totals, and more. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right. Thanks for making this show your first listen. If you are living that lifestyle, if you are truly making the show your first listen, let me tell you about the Everydayer Club. You can take it up a level. Join the Everydayer Club. You get an ad-free version of this very podcast in your audio feed. Ad-free audio version of this podcast. Plus, you get access to the members-only Discord and a couple other bonuses, including some live national shows that you're not going to get anywhere else. It's all just for $5 a month or $50 a year. And you can go to LockedOnBlazers.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. Okay, let's keep it rolling with our next mailbag question. If you want to ask a mailbag, LockedOnBlazersPod@gmail.com is the place. I don't always use them right away, but I save them, I read them, and I respond to many of them. I'm pretty good about it. Slowly but surely, I'll get to you. This next question is about Sidy Cissoko. It's, again, because I got so many emails. This is the most emails I've ever had on a mailbag question, on a mailbag show. Did you know that if the Blazers lose 6 of 7 and 3 in a row, and then they put together one of the great shooting performances that any team has ever had, they're the first team to ever beat a player that made 12 threes in a game. No player in NBA history had made 12 threes in a game and lost until Steph Curry made 12 threes, scored 48 points, and lost. And then I called for mailbag questions after that show, and all of y'all were listening, so All of y'all responded, so many of you. And so listener Sam, listener Ryan, listener Martin, listener Brady all asked questions about Sidy Cissoko to varying degrees. And basically it comes down to is like, is Sidy going to get bumped up? Is Sidy going to get a job with the big club? I like Sidy Cissoko has been darn good this year. Not eye-popping, gaudy box score numbers that you can tell your friends about. Not even a pretty looking jump shot that you could show someone highlights of or anything like that. But if you've watched the games, if you're really locked into watching him, he makes plays. He's a competitive and physical defender. He's got a little bit of ball handling skills for someone his size. He's a smart passer. He had one play the last night, Sunday night, where he caught the ball in the corner and just kind of losing his balance. One hand kind of just shifts it back up to the top of the key to like keep the ball movement going. It's just like that's a great pass. Like that's a skill and touch of an NBA wing at 21. And like last week, I had mentioned that he was kind of like that. I thought he was one of the bright spots during a rough stretch for the Blazers. It's like, he's had some really he's had some nice moments, and like if you're looking for a two-way guy, you can do a lot worse than what Sidy Cissoko looks like. He maybe doesn't look like an NBA starter or anything like that, even though he started a bunch of games. But it's like he's an NBA player and he's 21 years old, and you got him like in the system, and like this is exactly kind of the value of two-way contracts, is to find these developmental parts. Give him some time. He was in the Blazers system last year. It was not very good. Steps into the system this year. All of a sudden looks like he can be helpful, earns the trust of the coaching staff. And now the question is like, is Sissoko going to get an NBA contract? More on that in a moment. Why he would need one is because he's currently on a two-way contract, which is specifically not an NBA deal. It's a minor league job. It pays less than the NBA minimum. It's about $600,000 as opposed to like $2 million. And you only get 50 games on the active list with an NBA club. So that's not playing. That's 50 games when you're dressed. So like if they give you a jersey on the end of the bench and you just don't get in that night, that knocks off one of your 50 games. Curiously enough, for Sidy, he has yet to receive a DNP CD this year. 21 games officially of his 50 count are already in there with no DNP CDs. That did not play coach's decision. Every time Sidy has worn a jersey, he's played. Obviously, he was like moved into the starting lineup for 10 games. So he's been part of the plan. Like they put him in at crunch time because they needed to go small. Like he's playing and played well. In fact, against the Warriors, he received the now coveted box award. For after every win, they're giving out a box award for the Blazers' best defender. They showed this on social media. They did this in the locker room after the game. Tiago Splitter brought it out and pulled it out of a box from FedEx, and it's another box inside of a box. At first, I thought it was a FedEx box. I was like, interesting. It's another box inside of a box. You put your name in it, and the player with the most at the end of the year is going to get something. I bet that something is cash, if I had to guess. So like SidyCissoko's winning coveted awards. He won the coveted Mike Richmond's Bright Spot During a Bad Stretch award. He won the coveted Box Award for Best Defender of the Game, the first time they ever gave it out. And then on Sunday's game, he was also talking smack to Steve Kerr and maybe getting into a little beef with the Curry brothers. It seems like at the end of the game, there was a little bit of beef, and it might have been started by Sidy Cissoko, but I don't have the full details on that. What I do have the full details on is him and Steve Kerr getting into a screaming match, kind of a jawing match. Maybe barking at one another is maybe the more accurate sort of sports terminology to use. But there was a play call late, and Kerr was deciding there's a out of bounds, and like Blazers ball was going to go back to the Blazers, and he's kind of deciding, am I going to challenge it? I'm not going to challenge it. And so Kerr yells at the one of the guys who wipes off the floor. I was going to call them towel boys, but that's probably not what the term is. A team attendant. He yells at a team attendant, "Hey, you need to come wipe up the floor. Somebody just fell." And Sidy Cissoko's like, no, you can't tell him to do that. Go back. And Kerr said some swear words at Sidy Cissoko, like, don't tell me what I'm doing it. Don't talk to me. And Sidy Cissoko starts yelling back at Kerr, like, no, you do. Hold on. No. Don't talk to me like that. And so like Sidy Cissoko He's playing defense, snatching rebounds, making passes, getting into verbal arguments with the opposing coach. Dude is really fun. And he's been freaking good. I don't think on-off differential is the end-all, be-all of stats. In fact, I think it's pretty noisy. You kind of know it when you see it. But when someone, like, for instance, like for the whole stretch of his rookie season, Duop Reith had monster on-off splits. But what that really meant was that DeAndre Ayton sucked. And like some of y'all didn't want to believe it until he left town, then you booed him, nerds. But he was like, yeah, the other options weren't any good. And like Duop was really good. He was shooting 38% from three for that stretch. But like it's so much dependent on your coworkers. It's not end all be all. But like unsurprisingly, Denny has the best on-off differentials. The Blazers are 13.5 points per 100 possessions better with Denny on the court than they are off. And almost all of Denny's contribution is because the offense craters without him. The Blazers are actually a little bit worse on defense with Denny on the court, but the offense is 16 points better per 100 possessions with Denny on the court. He's the offense. He carries this thing. You know who's number 2 in differential? Sidy freaking Cissoko. The Blazers are 10.3 points per 100 possessions better when Sidy plays. When Sidy's in the game, the offense is better, 3.4 points per 100 possessions, and the defense is better, 6.5 points better per 100 possessions. They're giving up 6.5 fewer points per 100 possessions on defense with Sidy on the court. He helps the offense, he helps the defense, the second best differential on the team. Just like differentials, Denny, Sidy, Drew, Tumani, and the fifth guy is Shaden. But like Denny, Drew, Tumani makes sense. They're defenders. They're guys who are going to prop up and kind of like, two is like uniquely suited to like defend the way he does. Because they don't have another guy who can guard like the point of attack options they do. Drew is just like, he's just so helpful and such a steadying presence. And the Blazers have been better on both ends with him on the court. And then it's like, oh, and Denny's been their best player, right? And it's like, and then, oh yeah, and Sidy Cissoko. So will he get a two-way contract? Here's the thing. The Blazers, yes, he will. If assuming that Sidy plays, and like when everybody's healthy, when Drew gets back and Matisse gets back, it'll be curious where Sissoko plays. I would assume he plays over Chris Murray. Like he's just been straight up better than Chris Murray this year. And I think it's pretty clear, like based on the way they've played him recently, is the coaching staff has more trust in Sissoko to be helpful than they do Murray. So if you assume he plays like a similar every night role, he'll hit the 50 game mark right around the All-Star break. Blazers do not need to make a decision on Sissoko until the All-Star break. But based on right now, the Blazers have a full roster, 15 players. They can't, they'd have to cut someone to sign someone to a minimum contract. And Sidy's not going to get more than a minimum. He's going to get like the Sam Hinkie special, 4 years for the minimum when he signs a contract, I would imagine, which is also what Trendon Watford got and not too dissimilar from what Duop Reith was received as well. And those are the two players that Joe Cronin has converted from two-way contracts to NBA contracts. So Sidy will hit his mark right around the All-Star break, right around the trade deadline. And so like, if you assume that he plays till then, the Blazers will have to make that decision. Right now, today, based on my cat math, I believe the Blazers could waive a player because minimum contracts are prorated and sign a player and be like right up against it, $20,000 or something by my math, $25,000 within the tax line. That might be a little too hairy, and there's no need for them to make the decision on Tuesday, December 16th. So while they could, cut Ryan Rupert and sign Sidy Cissoko, they don't have to make that decision. And by the time they do have to make that decision, they will have plenty of wiggle room to, if need be, cut someone. They could also make an imbalance trade or do any of those things. But if they don't do anything else, they will. There's a pretty easy path to adding Sidy, and it won't be preventative. Okay, let's go to let's close the show. Let's talk Hansen, and let's talk a little bit about the fickleness of the NBA season. Join me in that third segment, won't ya? First, though, let's talk Wayfair. Look, the holidays always show up faster than we expect. In fact, they're already stinking here. If you're still putting together gifts or last-minute decor or getting your home ready for guests, Wayfair has you covered. Whether you need a quick room refresh, whether you need new bedding, or those final seasonal touches, Wayfair makes it easy to get what you need fast. Wayfair truly is your one-stop shop for everything home. Whether that's decor, furniture, kitchen essentials, gifts for every style and every budget, all delivered quickly and easily. It's going to be there for you. They got a huge selection, so it's everything you need. It's not just furniture, but it's decor. It's holiday decor. It's stuff for your kids' room. It's kitchen gear and gadgets. They got the selection that's going to meet any budget. So whether you want to spend a little bit of money or whether you're trying to do it on the low, you're going to find it all there on Wayfair. Plus, the delivery is hassle-free. There's no fees and there is no stress. It'll get your home holiday ready. So get those last-minute hosting essentials and the gifts for all your loved ones and the decor to celebrate holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Today's show also brought to you by SKIMS. You know what SKIMS are doing? They're making really, really comfortable underwear. Listen, if you've stuck around with maybe some styles or some fits of underwear that are just like not doing it for you, or you've just stuck with your same old forever, well, why not change it up? One upgrade to SKIMS. And it's obvious why the hype is real. SKIMS is nice enough to send me over a few pairs of underwear, and listen, they're really stinking comfortable. They're designed to feel good, fit right, actually stay put. If you're familiar with bad underwear, you know they're slipping, they're sagging, you're needing to adjust them. And like, SKIMS is making just genuinely great underwear that makes you feel confident and comfortable. Here's the best thing I can say about SKIMS. They're really, really stinking comfortable. You put them on in the morning, you have a great deal of comfort to go about your day, and then you don't notice them. The worst thing that can happen to you when you're living your life, doing whatever it is you're doing, whether you're working out, whether you're at work, whether you're, running errands, is having to consider what's going on with your undergarments. With SKIMS, they're comfy, and then you won't notice them, and you can live your life and do whatever it is you need to do. So shop SKIMS right now at skims.com. They make underwear for everybody, but they also now make a men's line as well. So you're going to find cuts no matter what kind of underwear you want to rock. When you place your order, choose podcast in the post-purchase survey and select my show from the drop-down menu to let them know I sent you. Plus, the SKIMS Holiday Shop is open, so if you're looking for the perfect gift this season, SKIMS has you covered. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. Still listening to Locked On Blazers. Still rolling through a special delivery mailbag. And this question comes from, I got a couple questions, but I'm actually going to read one verbatim because instead of like the other two where I had 4 kind of combined questions smashed into one, this one comes from listener Tyler, who asks, do you think that young Hansen can realistically see noticeable improvement just from practice time in the NBA and G League minutes, or is it possible that the team's investment in Hansen is being wasted without NBA minutes for him to seriously develop? The last part is a little bit dramatic, but I think there's something to this. One, like, Hansen played in the G League game today. I did not watch it. It was a 10:30 a.m. start. I'm not going to fake the funk like I went back and watched that G League game. I'd missed it. I read a recap of it from intrepid reporter Connor Bergen of Blazers Edge, and you can go to blazersedge.com and read that recap as well. Thank you, Connor, for your good work covering the game, writing about it. We love it. But like, I have watched Hansen play all of the NBA minutes, and I spent Sunday really, really paying close attention to his workout. I had a fun little pregame chatting with some old friends, and prior to chatting with some old friends, I went and sat down on the baseline at the basket that Hansen was at, and I kind of locked in on just him, what he's working on, right? Because, I knew I wasn't going to play that night. Rob was available and Klingon was available, and I knew they were going to go small against Golden State. Like, he just wasn't going to play. So I knew that sort of, 15-minute pregame work with one-on-one with a developmental coach is like, that's where he's going to get his work in. He's going to really sweat. He's going to get after it. And I will say, watching him really closely, the jump shot is what it is. A little bit slow release. It hasn't gone in the NBA, but it doesn't look so terrible that he can't be a jump shooter at some point, like a guy who makes threes at some point. But I just think right now, he is pretty far away with his functional strength. Like, even working with a developmental coach, they're really leaning on him and playing physical with him and like working on him, finishing through contact. Hit the guy in the chest, go up, load up for a layup or a dunk, right? He's catching it in the dunker spot, one power dribble, shoulder to someone's chest, go up and dunk, like a physical, a real NBA workout, right? And like, even then, when they really leaned on him, Hansen was having trouble creating space in those situations. He's going to get stronger. He's 20 years old. But I think that's the big thing for me. He's got a lot of stuff. Like, he's so skilled, right? Some of the dribbling moves, and obviously he's a good passer, although it hasn't really translated at high level in the NBA, just because I think the athletes and the speed of game is a little bit faster than his playmaking chops are right now. And the way they guard him with the physicality has made it so he hasn't been able to pass as well as I think he could be capable of at some point. But I think like the big thing for me is that so much of, and I think this is a mistake that I probably made watching him. It's like, I watch his highlights, right? When he got drafted, I watched the mixtapes and I'm like, dude, this guy has awesome footwork. But what I was tantalized by was the go one way, show the other way, come back, flip it in, like 4 moves out of the post. You can't do that in the pros. They're just too good. You need one turn over your shoulder hook shots, like the old Robin Lopez. Seal, catch, turn, finish. Simple moves. You don't have time to fake left, go right, and go back. If you do, you have to be so strong in order to hold a guy in his spot. If you're going to make a bunch of moves, help is going to come, and you're going to be shooting in a crowd. Like, functional strength to get himself space and simplify the package. Simplify the package. It has to be, I would say, probably 100% simpler. Like really scale it down. Turn over your left shoulder, shoot a right-handed hook. Turn over your left shoulder, shoot a right-handed hook. Seal, catch, left shoulder hook shot. You're 7'3". He's one of the biggest dudes in the league. And once he gets stronger, just like keep it really simple. And then once you get that, all the skill stuff can lock in. He's really skilled. But if you can't execute the skills because of some of the functional stuff, you can't get there. I don't know if he'll ever be good enough on defense just because of the anticipation and the speed. But he can be, the functional strength will help him be at least useful on offense, and then we'll see, like, check a box, move to the next one type of thing. But does he need NBA minutes? I don't know. I would say Sidy Cissoko is an interesting look at that. Basically didn't play at all in the NBA last year, and then had a little summer action and got in. Now he's like an NBA player, right? I do think generally Hansen, because he's making a jump to this level, does probably need some NBA minutes. But the Blazers are not going to just gift him minutes because they have aspirations to be a team that makes the playoffs. They probably, my guess is that they probably didn't think he was going to be this big of a project. My assumption is that they thought he would be somewhat playable, and they're having to recalibrate now that he's very clearly not playable. And it was clear 5 minutes into his NBA career. It's like, he's not that, like, it was clear in preseason. It's like, he is going to have a learning curve. And it was incredibly clear early in his NBA, like, and then when the actual game started, it's like, yeah, he's not ready for this level. So I bet the Blazers thought he'd be further along. That's my assumption. They thought he'd be further along, and he's not. And because he's not, now they're figuring out what it is. G League minutes are good for him. He just needs to play. So much of it is conditioning, right? The functional strength is important, but like, just really playing at this level with this number of athletes, with this level of athletes and the level of speed and the way the Blazers want to play, Hansen needs to get in phenomenal shape, and he needs to get stronger. And I think, like, the G League is a great place for him to get reps and touches, but I also think he needs to learn the rhythm of the NBA. So some of it is like, you just don't want to leave him in the G League for a month and like keep him away from the NBA team, because like, it's just not, it's being around pros, finding out what the rhythm of the NBA is and what it takes. When do you lift? When do you get your work in? All those things like that matters, right? That is part of your seasoning, is like being there, right? So I think it's a tough balance. I think in general, to like seriously develop, yeah, he'll probably need some NBA time, but part of the challenge for guys is sometimes that's not available, and it falls to you. Can you get your skill work up and your body right to be a contributor? And that'll be the test for Hansen. Real quick, I want to talk about the fickleness of fandom to close the show, and I'm going to do this in about 90 seconds. The Blazers were getting shelled. They had a terrible game against Memphis. They had a terrible game against New Orleans. And I was going into Sunday knowing that I was kind of going to do a mailbag. And I'd gotten some questions, got emails all the time. And I got some questions about whether the Blazers were tanking secretly. No, they're just losing. They're just losing, okay? Look, they're just losing. Like, get it together. Come on now. Or whether they should tank. They should pull the plug and just like, I think whether the Blazers' like aspiration to finish 10th in the West is noble is a reasonable question. Whether that actually matters, but like, I got maybe 3 emails and some YouTube comments about whether the Blazers were actually tanking, or whether they should tank. A couple emails. It's like, I don't know. What would be the difference? They're playing Sidy Cissoko. He's starting, right? Like, Caleb Love plays regular minutes. What would be the difference in they're doing now versus tanking? Are you just saying, like, should they let you let go of the rope? You can let go of the rope anytime. You're welcome to. But like, then the Blazers have this incredible shooting night, one of the just most entertaining games of the year. They beat the Warriors. And you know what I'm getting emails about? Whether the Blazers can finish 7th in the West. Anything's possible. So I say this is like, I have unique exposure to small dozens of Blazer fans. Might be more than small dozens now, baby. The show's getting popular, and I appreciate y'all. But like, some games are bad. Some games are good. What I'm going to try my best to do here is make sure that we're always as much as it's like this show is about minutia and really dialing in, it's like appreciating kind of where we are, right? Is Tiago Splitter a good coach? Well, certainly by the end of the year, I won't say we don't know, right? But we don't know 25 games in. There's stuff I like and stuff I don't like. Is Sissoko going to get an NBA contract? I would say yes, he will probably get an NBA contract. It's just he'll get it like I said, he'll get it when he hits his number in February, 50 game mark, and he's no longer eligible to play off the two-way contract. Then he'll get the Sam Hinkie special. But like, keep it zoomed out. Keep it zoomed. Like it is such a fickle, funny part about being a fan of something is that when it's good, it feels good, and when it's bad, it feels terrible. And this is just a reminder to hold on to your joy, because if you hold on to your joy, if you remember and appreciate the good moments, when the Blazers do just have an absolute stinker in New Orleans, it will help you avoid the weird conspiracy stuff that is more easily explained by, look at the roster, they didn't have enough dudes, and then they also sucked. The fickleness of fandom. It's beauty, but also like they played an awesome game on Sunday against the Warriors. Hold on to your joy. What a fun game that was. Truly special one. Steph Curry became the first player in NBA history to make 12 three-pointers in a game and lost. The Blazers have beat the Warriors 3 times this year. Hold on to your joy. Come back for more shows later this week. I got a really, really, really fun guest coming later this week. I'm going to tell you who that is in tomorrow's program. So if you want to hear a teaser for Thursday's show, come back and listen to Wednesdays. I appreciate you listening. Tell your friends about the podcast. I will talk to you soon.